Distraction is destroying your future silently. You don't lose your future in one big mistake. You lose it in small distractions. Every day, every hour, every moment you choose comfort instead of focus. It doesn't feel dangerous. Scrolling for a few minutes, checking notifications, switching tasks again and again. It feels harmless, but it's not. Because distraction is slow, silent, invisible, and that's what makes it powerful. You don't notice the damage immediately, but over time, it destroys your attention, your discipline, your ability to finish what you start. Now think about your day. How many times do you get distracted? How many times do you start something and never finish it? How many times do you say, "I'll do it later"? Distraction is destroying your future silently. Let's go deeper, because distraction is not just a habit, it's a system your brain has learned over time. Every notification, every scroll, every quick reward, it trains your brain to seek stimulation, to avoid effort, to escape focus. And the more you feed that system, the stronger it becomes. Now, think about this. Why is it so hard to focus? Because your brain is not used to stillness. It's used to constant input. Fast videos, endless scrolling, quick dopamine hits. That's your baseline now. So when you sit down to focus, your brain feels uncomfortable. Not because the work is hard, but because it's slow. And your brain hates slow. It wants speed. It wants variety. It wants stimulation. That's why it pushes you to check your phone, switch tasks, do something easier. And if you follow that urge, you reinforce distraction. But if you resist, you retrain your brain. Now here's something powerful. Focus is not about forcing yourself.
Distraction is destroying your future silently. Let's make this practical. Because focus is not built in theory, it is built in your daily actions. Right now, your biggest problem is not lack of time, it's lack of direction. You sit down to work, but your mind is not clear. You don't know exactly what to do, so you hesitate. You delay. You look for something easier. And that's when distraction wins. Because confusion creates escape. Clarity creates focus. So the first rule is simple. Be clear before you start. Don't sit down and figure it out. Decide your task first. What exactly are you going to do? Be specific. Not work on project, but write 2 pages. Edit 1 video section. Complete this 1 task. Because specific targets create focused action. Now, let's talk about another problem. Task switching. You start one thing, then switch to another, then another. And by the end of the day, nothing is complete. That's not productivity. That's activity. And activity without completion is useless. Because results come from finishing, not starting. So your next rule is simple. Finish before you switch. Stay with the task. Even when it feels boring. Even when your mind wants to escape. Because completion builds confidence. Now, let's go deeper. Your brain loves novelty. New things feel exciting. Old things feel boring. So when your task becomes repetitive, your brain looks for something new. That's why you switch. But here's the truth. Mastery comes from repetition, not novelty. So instead of chasing new tasks, stay with the same one. Go deeper, improve it, refine it, because that's where real growth happens. Now, let's talk about time blocks. Most people work randomly, no structure, no plan, and that leads to distraction. So create blocks, dedicated time for focused work. No interruptions, no distractions, just work. Even 1 to 2 hours a day of deep focus is more powerful than 8 hours of scattered effort. Now, here's something important. Breaks are not bad, but uncontrolled breaks are. If you take breaks randomly, you lose momentum. But if you schedule them, you stay in control. So work in cycles. Focus, break, repeat. That keeps your energy stable. Now, let's talk about your phone. The biggest distraction. You don't need it all the time, but your brain thinks you do, because it's trained. Notifications, messages, apps, they pull your attention. So create distance. Keep your phone away, not silent, away, because out of sight is out of mind, and that makes focus easier. Now, here's a powerful technique. Single tasking. Do one thing at a time, not 2, not 3, just one. Because multitasking is a myth. You are not doing multiple things. You are switching fast. And every switch costs energy, costs focus, costs performance. So slow down, do less, but do it fully. Now, let's talk about momentum. Starting is hard, but once you start, it becomes easier. So don't wait to feel ready. Start anyway, even for 5 minutes, because action creates momentum, and momentum reduces resistance. Now imagine this. You sit down. You know your task. You remove distractions. You start. You stay with it. You finish. That cycle builds focus, again and again, until it becomes natural. Now, here's something deeper. Focus is not just about work. It's about how you live. If your life is chaotic, your mind will be chaotic. If your habits are scattered, your focus will be scattered. So simplify your routine, your tasks, your environment, because simplicity creates clarity, and clarity creates focus. Now think about your current habits. Are they helping you focus or distracting you? Because your habits are training your brain daily, and your brain becomes what you repeat. Now imagine this version of you. You don't get distracted easily. You don't jump between tasks. You don't delay. You just do the work. Calmly. Consistently. That version is not special. It's trained. Built through small decisions. Repeated daily. And once you build it, everything changes. Your output increases. Your confidence grows. Your results improve. Because now, you are focused. And focus creates everything.
Distraction is destroying your future silently. There is something deeper than distraction: avoidance. You are not always distracted. Sometimes you are escaping. Escaping difficult tasks, escaping pressure, escaping responsibility. Because focus requires effort, and effort feels uncomfortable. So your brain looks for an easier option, something quick, something easy, something that feels good right now. And that's where distraction becomes an escape, not just a habit, but a way to avoid discomfort. Now, think about this. What do you avoid the most? The task that matters the most. the one that requires deep thinking, the one that moves your life forward. That's the one you delay. That's the one you escape. And that's the one that defines your future, because your growth is hidden in the things you avoid. Now, here's the truth. Distraction is not the real enemy. Avoidance is. Distraction is just the tool. The real problem is your resistance to effort, to discomfort, to challenge. And until you face that, nothing changes. Now, let's go deeper. Your identity is playing a role here. You don't see yourself as someone who finishes. You see yourself as someone who starts and stops, someone who tries and quits. And that belief is controlling your actions because your brain follows identity. So if you believe you are easily distracted, you will act that way. But if you change that belief, your behavior changes. So shift your identity. I finish what I start. I stay focused even when it's hard. I don't escape. I act. At first, it feels forced, but repetition creates truth. Now, let's talk about emotions. Focus is not just mental. It's emotional. When you feel overwhelmed, you avoid. When you feel stressed, you escape. When you feel bored, you distract yourself. So your focus is directly connected to how you handle emotions. If you can sit with discomfort, you can focus. If you always escape discomfort, you will stay distracted. Now, here's a powerful rule. Stay when it's uncomfortable. Not forever, but a little longer. When your mind says stop, stay. When it says check your phone, stay. When it says do something else, stay. Because that extra moment builds strength. That's where your focus grows. Now, let's talk about discipline. Focus without discipline doesn't last. You need structure, rules, boundaries. Not flexible, not optional, non-negotiable. Because when everything is optional, nothing gets done. So decide, when will you work? What will you do? And follow it. No excuses. No negotiation. Now imagine this. You sit down to work. Your mind tries to escape, but you don't move. You stay. You continue, even when it's uncomfortable. That moment is powerful, because that's where transformation happens. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Now, here's something important. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Some days will be better. Some days will be harder. But what matters is you keep going, because consistency builds identity, and identity builds results. Now, think about your life. If you keep escaping, where will you be? Still distracted, still starting, but never finishing. But if you start facing discomfort, everything changes. You build strength. You build focus. You build control. And control is the foundation of success. Now, imagine this version of you. You don't run from hard tasks. You don't escape discomfort. You face it, calmly, consistently. That version is powerful, because now, nothing controls you. Not distraction, not emotion, not fear. You are in control. And once you reach that level, focus becomes natural, not forced, not difficult, but part of who you are.
Distraction is destroying your future silently. At some point, you have to make a decision, not about your goals, but about your habits, because your future is not built by what you want, it's built by what you do daily. Right now, you already know what you need to do. You know the work, you know the tasks, you know what matters. But knowing is not the problem, doing is. Because every time you sit down to work, you face a choice: focus or distraction. And most of the time, you choose distraction, not because you want to fail, but because it feels easier, more comfortable, more immediate. But comfort has a cost. It delays your progress. It weakens your discipline.
It slowly destroys your future. And the worst part is, you don't feel it immediately, because distraction is silent. It doesn't hit you all at once. It takes your time little by little, until one day you realize you've wasted too much of it. Now here's the truth. Your life is controlled by your attention. What you focus on grows. What you ignore fades. So if your attention is on distractions, your goals fade, your progress slows, your potential stays unused. But if your attention is focused, everything changes. You move forward, you improve, you build something meaningful. Now think about this. Where is your attention going right now? Is it helping you grow or keeping you stuck? Because that answer defines your direction, and your direction defines your life. Now let's be honest. Focus is not easy. It requires effort. It requires discipline. It requires saying no to things that feel good in the moment. But that's the price of growth. There is no other way. You cannot build something meaningful while being constantly distracted. You cannot achieve your goals while avoiding deep work. You cannot grow while escaping discomfort. So, you have to choose comfort or progress, distraction or focus. Now imagine this version of you. You wake up with clarity. You sit down to work. You don't hesitate. You don't overthink. You don't escape. You just start, and you continue, even when it's hard, even when your mind resists, even when it feels uncomfortable, because you understand something powerful. Discomfort is temporary, but results are lasting. Now here's the shift. Stop asking, "How do I feel?" Start asking, "What needs to be done?" Because your feelings will always change, but your actions create your life. And if you act consistently, even when you don't feel like it, you build discipline, and discipline builds focus. Now think about your next moment. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. What will you do? Will you scroll? Will you delay? Will you escape? Or will you act? Because this moment matters more than you think. Because small moments create big outcomes. Now imagine this. You choose focus again and again and again. At first it feels hard. Your mind resists. Your body feels restless. But you stay. You continue. And slowly, something changes. It gets easier, not because the work changed, but because you changed. You became stronger, more disciplined, more focused. And one day, you look back and you realize something powerful. You are no longer distracted. You are no longer controlled by your habits. You are in control of your attention, of your time, of your life. And that is the real goal. Not just focus, but control. Control over where your energy goes. Control over what you build. Control over your future. So from this moment, make a decision. Stop wasting your attention. Stop feeding distraction. Stop escaping what matters. And start doing one simple thing. Focus. Even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not perfect, because that's how it starts, and that's how it grows, until one day, focus becomes your default, and success becomes your result.